Hello, everyone. Welcome to Liberty Bytes. This is Matt McGowan sitting in for William Gaston. Between Bill Weld jetting off to the GOP in what should be a highly entertaining attempt at primarying Trump and the never-ending, or at least seemingly never-ending, parade of announced candidates for the Democratic nomination, today seems like a good day for us to take a look at the libertarian field of potential candidates for president in 2020. Now, we do know that we have a few candidates who have already announced. I believe Adam Kokesh, Vermin Supreme, and John McAfee, from wherever it is he is in the world this evening, are all planning to seek our party's nomination. And I know there's also a lot of speculation on a lot of different candidates, but I would like to try to focus on those who have announced for sure. So looking at that field, two things stand out to me. As someone who lives in a state whose ballot access rides on this election, it's very important to me that we make the right choice. Now, while each of the candidates I mentioned previously certainly would have the ability to grab media attention for the party, I think it's also very important that we put our best foot forward as libertarians. One of the things that I expect that we will have this election that maybe we didn't in the past is a media that's maybe a little more friendly towards our candidates. And the reason being, a lot of them obviously don't like Trump. And the difference between now and 2016 is they take him seriously. For some reason, they also seem to confuse him with the libertarian. So I fully expect whoever we nominate to grab a fair share of media attention that maybe wasn't there for us previously, as the media does all it can to water down his vote. Which brings me to a ticket I have yet to mention that has announced, and that is Kim Ruff and John Phillips. Now, for those who don't know, Kim and John are longtime state and national party activists. They're very well respected among the rank and file, among the people that are out there doing stuff, rather than sitting on Facebook and talking about stuff, which you can see by the campaign team they assembled. It's pretty much a who's who of people who have been out there doing the work for, in some cases, decades. Now, one of the knocks on their campaign is that they are not well known, and people don't think they'll have the ability to garner the media attention that maybe bigger name candidates would. But as I mentioned earlier, I think we will face a friendly press who's going to try to do everything they can to dilute Trump's vote. So I think this is the year to pick candidates who are a bit more representative of who we are. And Kim Ruff and John Phillips certainly fit that bill. Now, in 2016, while we did as a party achieve historic vote totals in the presidential election, there's a lot of folks who believe that we might have done a little better with candidates who were maybe a little more on point when it came to libertarian messaging. After all, Gary's most memorable comments were gaffes, and Bill Weld articulated more of a watered-down republicanism than he did libertarianism. So I don't think that voters really got a taste of who we are or what we stand for. As such, our message basically came across as watered-down versions of what the two parties were already offering. You know, we were telling folks that we were fiscally conservative and socially liberal, a message that inspired exactly no one, and I don't think is truly representative of what libertarianism stands for. Now, Kim and John, by contrast, if you go to their website, which is Ruff-Phillips2020.com, and that's RUFF, Phillips2020.com, they have laid out 5 priorities that are very consistent with libertarianism. The first being foreign policy and national defense, in which they discuss ending wars of aggression and building healthy, sustainable relationships with the rest of the world by engaging in diplomacy and free market economics. The second priority, welfare and immigration reform, reducing welfarism and overhauling the immigration process to give peaceful people a clear path to citizenship. These are issues I think that are very important to the majority of Americans, and where libertarianism is consistent with their beliefs. They go on to discuss reducing executive power, which is reducing the executive branch to its constitutionally defined limitations by overturning all executive orders, eliminating redundant agencies, and vetoing any legislation that proposes to do otherwise. These are things each party talks about when they are not in power and seems to forget about when they go into power. Another message that will resonate with the voters. The fourth priority listed is ending the Federal Reserve. I mean, I don't have to explain that to anybody listening to this podcast, I'm sure. Doesn't get more libertarian than that. They want to use their influence on Congress to introduce, support, and then vote to overturn the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 and its associated amendments, thereby eliminating the Federal Reserve and all of the false constraints on the free market system and currency it imposes. Again, I think that is an issue where we can win with the average voter. And then finally, they discuss pardoning nonviolent political prisoners. And basically, this is everyone who is currently sitting in a federal penitentiary because they were found guilty of what ultimately was a victimless crime. We know a large number of people are sitting in prison because of drug abuse or drug dealing that did not involve violence. And it's wrong. It's wrong. And I believe the majority of Americans now see that, including people on the right. But neither party wants to come across as being, or at least appearing, that they're not tough on crime. So they allow this to go on. It's an abomination. And, you know, it's something, quite frankly, we didn't really talk enough about in the last election. And this is a central plank of the Ruff-Phillips ticket. So while I understand some people's concerns about name recognition, the fact remains that we had two governors run in this last election, two former Republicans, loved in their states, who roughly got about 3% of the vote. 3% of the vote in an election with two of the most hated candidates in history. So I'm not sure name recognition or political credentials is the be-all, end-all that some are making it out to be. Look, we all know that realistically, the Libertarian candidate in 2020, no matter who they are, isn't very likely to win this election. But what they can do is introduce a whole new generation of people to libertarianism. There's an opportunity here for us to build for that future where we do compete. But we have to articulate what we stand for if we really want the public to start paying attention. Now, I would be remiss to issue an endorsement prior to knowing who all is going to run and who all will be at the convention in Austin next year. But I tell you what, man, Ruff-Phillips is looking awfully good to me. This is Matt McGowan for Liberty Bytes on the Think Liberty Network. Thanks for listening.